Welcome to On The Spot podcast with me, Johnny McMurray, your fabulous host. And we have a fabulous guest on this evening. Our first guest of what should be a very long podcast, or a long list of guests, is someone who is very famous in the Northern Ireland Football League, the BBC, and absolutely all over Northern Ireland. Jackie Fullerton, Sir Jack.
What an introduction!
I hope that was one of the.
I could listen to that all night.
I could keep going. I feel like your voice was better to be talking.
Tired.
Good, Jackie. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure talking.
Johnny. When I was asked, I said I'll certainly do that for Jonathan.
Oh, professional. I love it. David would be most proud. Jack.
Yeah, the first name right.
Yeah, it's being professional. Jackie, listen, just a big one to say thank you. I'm over the moon to have you on as the first guest, to be honest.
It's a pleasure. You've brought me out of retirement, really. Because the last game I did was a Saturday in mid-February 2016.
Right.
So, 2018.
18.
So, I'm 7 years retired, so I'm out of the way of doing all this, Johnny.
Right.
So,
do you know what? You're looking for retirement, you're looking fabulous.
Well, thank you. You might have to talk a lot.
Well, hopefully.
While I try to remember what I'm trying to say.
I want these people to be listening to you, Jack.
Yeah.
But listen, we're here to have a chat about you, your life. I think a lot of people can see you've brought a wee bit of memorabilia with you.
Oh, yeah, the book. I was just checking today. It's 2005 it was brought out. And how that came about very quickly, Johnny, was I was down to host the launch of a book for the late and the great Harry Gregg.
Right.
And I did this, interviewed Harry and so on. And the publishers were over from, I think it was Manchester. And Roger Anderson, the late Roger Anderson, sadly, who made a good job of encapsulating my life, he had told them, oh, Jackie's big guy over here and all that on television.
Quite famous.
And a wee bit famous. And he put it to me, and I says, who'd be interested in reading a book like me, about me? And but they thought, Alex Fergus, Joey Dunlop, George Best, Alex Higgins, all that sort of stuff. And I says, yeah, I have a few stories and a few contacts. So that's how the book came about, and I'm delighted the way it turned out.
I'm just going to throw this out there, and I think that they name drop you equally as much as you've just name dropped them.
Thank you.
What I have to say though is, I've done a lot of research, Jack. Tried to bring back a few good memories that I can bring up today in the podcast, which hopefully we will. But not only do you have a book, you have a film.
Oh yeah,
you have a film
where I played myself.
Where you played yourself.
Football commentator.
Sure. What better man?
We recorded that down in Dublin, and it was very enjoyable. Although you know the camera on the dolly that moves along, you've seen it probably sometimes in documentaries, and you have to do a scene about 4 times because they're shooting it from different angles and so on. Right. So I found it quite tedious, and boring.
Okay.
But I thought, hey, what's to complain? A wee fella from a housing estate in a movie, so catch yourself.
Incredible. The good thing is, now I was flicking through Amazon, I seen it. I didn't buy it, Jack. It was $3.29, and I thought to myself, I'll just interview him and see how we get on. I don't need to watch it, but listen, we might get there.
Oh yeah.
So listen, I want to come back. I want to bring it back to the start of your career, but not just your broadcasting career. And I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't know you had a football career, Jack.
Not many people did.
Do you know? I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I was looking at it and I seen a goal you scored. I'm just going to put this out here. It was a charity game against Cliftonville. I don't know if you remember. I think it was up at Donegal Celtic.
Yes.
And it was Jackie Fullerton running up the left wing. He smashes a ball with his left foot into the top corner. And I was like, God, I'm going to bring this up. That's probably his only goal. Little did I know whenever I went and done it.
Actually, when when we won the league title at Crusaders, the first time they'd won the league in 72-73 season, I scored 20 goals for most of the season from the left wing. Played a few times up top with Tom Finney,
Okay.
who went on to play for Northern Ireland,
Amazing.
if you remember Tom.
I don't. But see, I would have if he
I'll
became,
not tell
if he
Philly
became as
says-
famous as you, then I would say he'd be like,
No, he was a great player. For a centre forward, he was tough.
yeah,
I was your typical winger, a little bit shy,
you've got all the speed.
50-50s, I didn't want to know about, that sort of thing. But I got 20 goals, and I was second in the list for Crusaders that season. Finney, the main man, he got 23. So
Not that far off now.
I was well chuffed, and it was the first medal I'd won in my inconsistent career, which had started at Cliftonville, where everybody seemed to do in those the 60s.
We've been there,
You
and then we
were-
go to Ballymena.
You weren't even born in the 60s, and then I got a move to Derry City, who were a very good team at that time. And I was only a young player, about 19 or so.
Yeah.
And played in Europe for them against Anderlecht in Brussels. Amazing experience. But we got beaten 9-0
Okay.
because they had 10 Belgian internationals in the team. Like a striker called Paul van Himst, who was a wonderful player. But people always said to me about playing in Europe is a great experience. I was depressed because of the scoreline. I thought, well, they've beaten us 9-0. They're playing football. What the devil are we playing? You know, why am I getting so worked up about this career and our football in the Irish League if we get stuffed 10-0 by a Belgian side who aren't one of the top teams in Europe? So I was depressed. I didn't see it as a great experience. The experience of taking part in a game like that with 25,000 there was quite something.
Yeah.
But the result left a bad taste in the mouth, as you would expect.
Well, I mean, 9-0's a shocking defeat for Derry City there back.
It is.
But I mean, but when you consider what you were doing, where you were at, the league at that stage, they were probably full time.
Yes, they were full time. Yeah. As I say, they had 10 internationals. And I remember before the game, Faye Coyd, another man you won't remember, he was a veteran centre forward. Your dad will probably remember him. He's sitting in the corner here somewhere. Faye said to me, because he knew I didn't like the heavy tackles or anything, and the captain of Belgium was actually a guy called Highlands. He was right back. So he was a well-built wee guy, and I had a bit of pace and a bit of ball with the left foot. But Faye said to me, he says, Jackie, you'll enjoy these European games. These guys will not be all over the top of you. They will stay back and see, they'll give you room to play. I thought that's good. And after about 10 minutes of the game, I got the ball that came across, and I had a good touch, and I controlled it, pushed it forward, and as I stepped forward to hit the cross, this guy took off from about 5 yards away with a foot out like this here, and he just caught me below the knee on the left foot, and I did a cartwheel. And was I sore as well, because it was full studs.
That was you done.
And I thought, so I'm lying there getting treatment. And I looked over, and there was Faye Coyne, and I looked at Faye, and he went,
sorry.
I think it's changed a bit.
False promises there.
So that was my experience of European football, but
it's
there in the memory bank.
Yeah, it's always going to be, you know. And as you say, it's a good experience.
Yeah.
Young local lad playing for your hometown club.
Tough.
Yeah.
It was very tough. My father, who had played before the war for Ballymena, he said, don't sign for Ballymena.
Okay.
And I was really signing for Alec Parker, who was the manager, former Everton and Scotland fullback. And I thought Alec was a great player. So I was signing for him, and I lasted a year and a bit, 3 months or something. And you just get dog's abuse. I didn't really play well because I was frightened to try and beat people. At that time, football was different to what it is now. Now it's all about don't give the ball away. Then when a winger got the ball, you took it straight up to the fullback and tried to get past him inside, outside, whatever. And I was frightened, if I lose this ball, I'm going to get pelters.
Yeah.
So I played within myself, really, and I never really played well. But I remember, Johnny, one day we were down at Glenavon. It was a 5:30 kick-off because there were no floodlights the way there are now in the league, and it was late August or something, and a Gold Cup or something. And had a great first half. Nutmegged the fullback a couple of times, beat him on the inside, beat him on the outside, getting crosses over. And the Ballymena crowd are on this side where I am, and they were still giving me pelters. You're a tube, come on. It's hard to take, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the only thing that I can probably agree on is that we all get those calls, and to be honest, they were probably calling me that very recently too. So,
but Eddie Russell, who's not too well at the moment, he was a fabulous stalwart for Ballymena. Played left half just behind me in the left wing, and he came over to get the ball for a throw. And the wall is so a bit different now at Moorview Park. Get the ball, and he says, "For goodness sake, leave off, Jackie. He's playing well. He's having a great game." And this loud voice from a well-known critic came from the crowd, says, "What the hell are you shouting about, Russell? You're worse than he is." So when we went in for half-time, Eddie says, "That's the last time I'm going to stand up for you."
Yeah.
I said, "I don't blame you." So in the November, the next season, I finally said to Alec Parker, I says, "Alec, get me out of here." And they did an exchange deal. And I went to Glenavon, where I had 3 and a bit years, and it was a nice time. We had a good team. We didn't win anything, but we were thereabouts, and I enjoyed my football. Was actually tipped to play for the interleague side, which chuffed me. But what did the selectors go and do? They picked a fella called Brian Hamilton instead of me. I mean, stupid.
Yeah, it was very stupid, that.
But there you go. But I lived the dream.
Good, and you enjoyed it. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Good. I don't really want to stick too much to your football because your illustrious commentating and broadcasting career probably outweighs the football career. But one of the main things I wanted to know was how that came about. How did you want to transition from football? Was that something that was always in your mind?
Journalism was always in my mind, but being a boy from Ballymena, you think, I'll never get to television, don't even think about that. But I thought about getting a job with the Telegraph, the newsletter, the Daily Mirror, something like that, because I'd been interviewed by these guys. And I thought, that's quite a nice job. And so how did it come about? I got invited to do a penalty prize program for UTV back in 1973. Yes, year I was at Crusaders. And because I was 4th in the goal scoring list, I'd had a very good start of the season scoring goals. So I was in there with Des Dixon. I can't remember who else was in there, but there were 4 footballers, 4 rugby players, and 4 Gaelic footballers. And I think I finished 2nd, and it was a Gaelic footballer who won the penalty prize, but it was shown over a series of weeks on television. But after we did the recording that night, we went to the green room where you have small talk with this guy and that guy, and hello, and have a drink or a cup of tea or whatever. And I met Sidney Perry, whom I owe everything to. I met him. He was the controller, the big chief at UTV. And we talked about sport and we talked about cricket. And I had played cricket as well, played for Junior Ulster as a batsman. And I was able to remind him about great players of South Africa and the West Indies in prior years. So he must have been impressed by the fact that I had more knowledge about sport than just football.
Yeah.
And about a month later, we were at Seaview playing. It was the Irish Cup, and we were beaten by Glentoran. I mean, we were all conquering that season. We were really playing well. We won the league eventually. But we lost the cup 2-1, and I was depressed because I hadn't had a good day. A few of us hadn't a good day. But I'm coming off, and there was Sidney Perry and a friend of mine, Robin Walsh, who was the head of news at UTV, and a former cricketing colleague of mine who had told Sidney that I was interested in journalism. And so I'm coming off depressed, the head down. This, Jackie, this is Sidney Perry. So would you like to join us inside for a drink when you get changed? And I said, oh, yeah, certainly. And I was so disappointed, Johnny, you know the way you can get disappointed, that I nearly didn't go to the meeting. But I went in, had a drink, and Sidney eventually put it to me, you're interested in the media? I says, yeah. He said, have you thought about television? I says, no, actually I haven't. I've thought about newspapers and doing sport. And he says, oh, I think you should think about television. I think you could maybe have a chance. So that was the start of it. And I went. And then, cut a long story short, they offered me 4 times more money than I was earning at football, and I was 30 years of age at the time. In those days, you were finished when you were 30. You didn't play to 34 or 36 or whatever. And I thought, this, for a Ballymena man being careful about money, this is a no-brainer. The rest is history, and I started my TV career the following August. I did 4 recorded programs for a little summer-type program. And the next thing I knew, I was live on the Saturday program. And when I went for the interview, Johnny, because I knew nothing about TV, obviously, but Sidney says to me, he says, I think we see you. We would like you to join the team. Because I didn't know at that time that Gordon Burns, who was the presenter of Sportscast on a Saturday, and also presented the news, he was going to England, who eventually worked in the Krypton Factor. Right. And I had to say to him, I said, well, what exactly does that mean, join the team? I thought, getting tea and scripts and things. He says, well, we see you as the presenter.
Incredible.
My eyes must have been like saucers. And then he offered me the money, and they were bigger than saucers. And here we are, the rest is history.
Amazing. It's incredible how someone can see talent before anyone else.
Funny you should say that, because I was in the place about 2 years and was making my way all right. And I happened to see a lot of ladies in for auditions for announcing. And I watched them, went down to the studio area where they were director and all was living at some. In fact, I knew a couple of the girls. One was from Ballymena. And I thought, that must be difficult to pick out from about 30 people. So I said that to Sidney about a week later. I said, it must be difficult. He said, it's not, Jackie. He said, within 10, 15 seconds, you know if they've got something special. So I thought, okay, I'll take your word for it.
Jackie, we've been on maybe 20 minutes.
Am I talking?
Give it to me. Have I got it?
Have you got it?
So have I got it?
Not yet.
Not yet. This is why you're here, you see. I brought you on for this experience.
You're doing very well, Joe.
Well, Hopefully. So besides all that, and we get you into the biz, the show biz as it is, you didn't just focus on sports.
Hmm.
You dabbled in a few other things.
Oh, yes, frustrated singer, as a lot of the people will know. And, well, when I joined the BBC, I had 19 years in UTV, and I sang there a few times, sang on the Kelly Show, White Christmas, and
You did.
the old croony voice. But when I went to the BBC, where I spent 26 years, moved to the BBC in February 1992. And the following November, I was told the producer of Children in Need wanted me to do Children in Need, present it. And I thought, wow, could I do this? But I thought, yeah, why not? And we did it. I did it about 7 years, I think.
That's the red nose, isn't it?
That's the equivalent of the red nose.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience, and met a lot of people, a lot of celebrities and so on. And everybody was there for the same reason, to raise money for children in need.
Yeah. It's an incredible gesture every year, isn't it? But to do something at that magnitude, I know you're saying you've been on the UTV, you've done BBC, that attracts millions of pounds every year.
Mm.
That must have been one of the biggest things that you've...
It was, and what helped me, Jonathan, with my nerves on that night, because I'm only in the door really at BBC and I'm doing this high-profile show, was the fact that the girl presenting it with me, whose name escapes me at the moment, she had won the Eurovision Song Contest for Ireland,
Okay.
and she was very much out of her comfort zone from singing to a television presenter. Well, I'd been presenting and was aware of what television was all about, that I really had to look after her and keep her up.
Yeah.
So it took away the nerves from me, because I was being this custodian.
Yeah.
And that actually helped me. And once you get into it and start, a lot of it's ad lib, some of it's scripted. But I started to go with the flow, and
It led you.
it was brilliant. It was a brilliant experience.
When we look back at some of the things that you've been a part of, you're talking about your bad back. There's a very famous video surfacing on the internet. I think that may be why.
Giant Haystacks. And I'll tell you when that was. It was in January 1980. So that's 45 years ago. When I was a young man, I was 11. But, and it was the big Gloria Hunniford program, and I was doing the sport. Now, we recorded my interview with Giant Haystacks. So what was supposed to happen, I had a jacket on, and at the end of the interview, Giant Haystacks was nearly 7 feet tall, and he was about...
He's about 2 meters
34,
wide. Big.
34 stone or
Oh,
something.
huge.
It was, and his stomach started way up here. And so I'm standing, I nearly had a cramp holding the microphone up. But anyway, what I was supposed to do was, and I took my jacket off, hold that please, thank you. Supposed to lift me gently into the air, about 10 feet considering the height of him, twirl me around slowly, and then drop me in to the floor of the studio slowly. All he did was lift me by the backside of the trousers into the air and went boom. And I was waiting for a twirl, and slowly.
The one you were expecting was something off the Titanic by the sounds of it. Rose and Jack there, it would have been you and Haystacks.
Oh, and I hit the floor like a rag doll. And the floor was like this here, solid with a mat on top. So it wasn't cushioned or anything like that. And I honestly think the back trouble I have now came from that.
Absolutely.
And somebody said you should have sued UTV. And I said, well, suing wasn't really in vogue at that time.
No.
But I said, if I'd sued UTV, I was working for them. They'd have me out the door. But dear bless him, he died of cancer a few years later. And it helped me actually because it brought me to the attention of the viewers.
Yeah.
Because I was 7 years in doing sport, and that sort of brought me into the arena of, it's him.
That's Jackie. Sort of catapulted you into that.
Yes.
That limelight.
Catapulted, that's a good word.
That's one for the camera to pick that up, right? So when we look back at all of these things, ultimately you had two main jobs, UTV, BBC.
Yeah.
What was your preference? Who did you enjoy working for the most?
It's unfair not of you to ask that, but it's unfair of me to say I learned everything about the television business in UTV, which is a much smaller operation than BBC.
Okay.
So if I was interviewing or had interviewed George Best, I needed a tape with George Best's goals on it to put into the edited piece. And at UTV, you got the tape yourself, brought it up, you took it into a viewing suite, and you timed it and what time the goals were on that. In BBC, when I went there, they had people to do that, producers and assistant producers. So that was a big change. But because I had learned all of this stuff about VTR and what it was about and blah, 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 it was a great all-round experience.
I get you.
So when I went to BBC, I had all this knowledge and experience of how television worked, that I was really spoiled when I went to the BBC, and they had, as I said, assistant producers, etc., who looked after your needs. So both were great. I'll tell you a true story, and you may not believe me, but the first 3 months I worked at BBC, when I went down Old Road or whatever it was, came to the corner to turn right to come to the BBC, the car was nearly wanting to go straight. Well, actually, I was wanting to go straight.
Natural.
For 3 months that went on, and BBC, it's not a criticism of BBC, because the people there were great to me. They were very welcoming. And but it was hard leaving this family type atmosphere, and you knew everybody in the building, so you were leaving a lot of friends behind, and that wasn't easy. But the offer BBC made me soften that blow. There we are, back to money again.
Money helps, doesn't it?
So
at that time, Jack, when you do make that transition, do you realise how much bigger the BBC is than UTV?
yes, I think I found that UTV, I have to say, bats way above its weight.
Yeah.
And does a great job. But the BBC, not so much these days, but in the old days, they had more resource, more people. I mean, there's a very small staff in UTV, but they produced great work from this small team. And BBC was very good, and I would have no criticism of the BBC at all. And again, it was one of life's great experiences for me, coming from a smaller background on UTV to the much bigger business of BBC. But you're still there as a broadcaster, as a commentator. You're still there to do a job, and it doesn't matter what else is happening in the background.
Yeah.
And they had the contracts for football and internationals at that time. And I see, as we speak, they've just got
Them again.
live matches back again.
They've actually got them for everyone now, don't they? So that's Northern Ireland, Wales,
Yes,
and Scotland.
yeah. So I'm delighted about that.
Well, that'll be incredible for people in Northern Ireland as well, to be able to tune in and watch Northern Ireland.
Yes, I think so, because I finished my career commentating highlights for Northern Ireland games, and it wasn't the same as doing the live match, like the England match where David Healy scored the one goal which beat England. And what a night that was at Windsor Park. That's right up there in my list of memories.
Your most
Yeah, and I can still remember the goal. I can still remember the commentary, which is quite amazing. It's Steve Davis got the ball in the centre circle, and I said, "It's Davis. Lovely ball. The flag stays down. Healy." And then he took it in a bit, and just as he was about to hit it, I went, "Healy! Yes! 1-0. And that was a great moment. And I remember going home, and such was the excitement about the result of beating the old enemy that BBC, very wisely in my opinion, they showed the whole of the game at like 11 o'clock or something at night.
Yeah. For
the people who had been at the match, they could see it again. And the place was rocking that night, Windsor Park, I remember. And I remember that was and I sat up to watch it, really to see the end of it.
To listen to yourself.
And, well, the funny thing is, Jonathan, I used to drive home from doing internationals, and I could near enough remember every word I said.
Really?
Over the 90 minutes. Such is your concentration and your focus on what you're doing. And you could criticize yourself, and why did I say that? Or and then you say, that was a good line. You compliment yourself as well, but it's funny. But the next morning, my wife and I were going to Mallorca for a week. It was September. And we went on an early flight. I remember we got to the hotel, so on, and we're in the loungers beside the pool. It's about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And I sat up and I said, "Linda," I said, "we beat England last night, 1-0. It was," and she says, "I know."
I'm pretty sure that realization only kicked in at the side of a pool.
Yeah. And I was sorry in a way that I was away that week when the excitement back here at home would be massive.
Yeah.
Because we'd beaten David Beckham and all the boys.
Yeah.
And that was a great moment in my career as well.
It's incredible to think that you actually got to be a part of that, because a lot of people get special moments in their career, whether it's a football career or a broadcasting career, where they look back and be like, that was my defining moment.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the Valencia Stadium the night we beat Spain 1-0. Jerry Armstrong, to qualify for the next phase of the World Cup. And I was doing after-match interviews. I wasn't commentating that night. And I was along with a little fella, Elton Welsby, who used to do the big match in the last few years. About 10 years ago. And we were sitting behind the goal, not the end that Jerry scored, it was the other end. We were sitting there, the crowd were behind us and all. And what an atmosphere there was. And all of a sudden, the second half, about 7 minutes into the second half or something, Armstrong scores the goal. And like every pitch you see, there's always a bevel on it, whether you're at the side or behind. There always seems to be a bevel.
Yeah.
And I've sort of up in his ear. I says, "My goodness, we've scored." And I'm on my feet. I didn't cheer too loudly because they were all Spaniards. So that was it. And I remember going up to Bingham and getting a microphone. The camera was there as he was greeting Jerry Armstrong after the final whistle. And I arrived, and the three of us hugged. And Billy was close to tears, so was Jerry. And I had a lump in my throat the size of a golf ball. It was really one of those memorable moments that you get to be a part of.
Yeah.
And that was nice. And Billy Bingham was a very gracious man. The players respected him highly as a coach. And I often thought taking little Northern Ireland to 2 World Cup finals, the man should have got a knighthood.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the people in England wouldn't realise the magnitude of what he achieved. It was quite something.
Huge.
But we had a great team at that time. The gem of a goalkeeper and a gentleman, Pat Jennings, in goal.
The famous man.
The Bank of Northern Ireland in goal.
So when we consider the games that you've been at that level, that's the pinnacle of sport. That your preparation for doing those games, would it be different than you doing an Irish League game, or would you be consistent throughout?
It depends. An Irish Cup final would be live.
Yeah.
So my research would be the same as the internationals. And I would do the research over 2-3 weeks before an international. You started combing it together. And I loved it. It was a labour of love.
Yeah.
Nobody did it for me. I did it for myself. And it's things like you have the two teams and you have the Northern Ireland team. And remember Healy, 37th cap, 21 goals or whatever, whatever it was at that time. And last goal 2 years ago or last month, whatever it was.
Go for David, usually.
But I turned over and I had all the Healy and all the boys that are likely to score their last goal for Northern Ireland, who it was against, when it was. I said, now, if Jonathan McMurray scores, what do I say? Because you have so many little lines from every player. You think, oh, he'll be glad of that. He hasn't scored for 7 games. He's on the comeback.
Probably a few times about me, Jack.
He's missed again.
God, he can't believe it.
Can you believe it?
God.
But we can, but he can't. But no, so there was a lot of work went into it. But as I say, I was a labour of love. And when I went away anywhere, and I worked it out, my wife said you should note down the countries you've been to. Football has taken me to nearly 60 countries.
Incredible.
And when I get back to the hotel and you're having a little
water.
That's good. Water. I have all the notes, obviously, with me. And maybe next month I'm doing another international. I update the sheets, the number of caps, the number of goals, and all that sort of stuff on that night when I'm in my bedroom alone, before you say anything.
No, Jack. And we will do that on air.
But that's you're so engrossed in it. It's like when you're playing, you're engrossed in it, and you try to live the right way, and you try to do the right thing at the right time. And it was never a bother. Research was never a bother.
Was there ever a time where you went to a game unprepared and you felt like you got caught?
No. Do you know I keep dreaming about that?
Do you?
Yes, I do. Right. Even to this day. That I'm going to be late for the kickoff and there'll be no commentator. Or I don't know.
Or you had to just
I don't know any of the
Free ball,
details.
like,
When they last played each other, what were the scores? What's our record against them?
do you know what? We should do that for you. We should put you in a live game and watch magic unfold, because that's what it probably would be.
No, I remember the most difficult thing I ever did was in Bulgaria. The late, and for me, the great Alan MacDonald as my co-commentator. And it was highlights. And we couldn't get the sound to work. Remember, Berbatov was playing that day, and they scored a couple, I think. They beat us 4-3, but they beat us well.
Yeah.
But the first half, there were 4 goals, I think. We couldn't get any sound through to Belfast, just BBC. And they came through to me and they said, Jackie, there's no sound at all. They've been telling me this in my earpiece. There's no sound. And he says, could you ever commentate the goals at half time? And I sort of looked, what? And I says, yeah. I says, well, I see the goals. And they said, no. Right. So I had to think of it. The first goal, Hammed, the ball from the right, the header, oh, it's in, it's 1-0, Bulgaria, whatever, and then do a replay. And then they said, that's fine, that's good, thank you. Do number 2 now. I said, just give me a minute to try and remember what number 2 was. I went through that, and we did it. I never saw the highlights. I should have watched it when I came home. But apparently I get some great kudos for this exceptional work.
Incredible. They should have given you a bonus for that.
But that's only experience. You get that, and you work hard for that. But no, it was all good. It was all good.
Good. One of the things that I would love to know is, as a commentator and a broadcaster, you must have had a preference in what you done, whether it was a live game, whether it was a match of the day styled recap, or goals or highlights.
Oh, probably in the early days you'd be very frightened of a live game. Oh goodness, make a mistake or miss something or not get the goal scorer right or whatever. But I would plump for live every time, because
100%.
Your adrenaline's there. It's like playing.
Yeah,
you're ready. You go out there, you're ready to play, and hopefully it goes well. And I just loved the adrenaline rush that you get. And the hardest bit for me was doing the 2 teams, funny enough, and that was reading about a script you had written about the 2 teams. 3 changes in the Northern Ireland team, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't wait to get to the live game. And then the secret was knowing not to talk too much. You're not doing radio because people can see what's happening on television. And I was lucky I hadn't done any radio commentating before I did television commentating. Because I hear some people today, they fall into the trap of doing a radio type commentary when they're doing television, which isn't necessary. You have to let the pictures tell the story and let the pictures breathe a bit and let people take it all in. So you learn so much in the way through, Jonathan. It's experience is a great thing, and I think even at the start, when you conquer your nerves, you don't think you've made it. You progress slowly, and I tell young broadcasters now, and young people today, they want to be stars like yesterday. And they appear in a news program for a couple of nights, they think they've made it.
Yeah.
And I always said, be careful. I said, you haven't made it yet. You don't make it until something goes wrong, and you have to cope with that live. And that's a big test, and it lets you know as a broadcaster that you've made progress by being able to cope with the unexpected. Or must apologise, the pictures weren't there, must be gremlins in the line today or whatever. And you learn to do that over the years. And the best thing I advised them, I said, watch television. listen to commentators, listen to interviews, how they phrase the questions. And I said, watch the top people. And that's what I did in the early days, because I never had a lesson about presenting or commentating or anything. Some people will say, well, that showed. But I didn't. So I thought, well, I'll watch the best people. Like Diggy Davies, World of Sport, like Brian Moore, the commentator, John Motson. Lovely man, John Motson. And watch the real pros doing the stuff, and then you can take some of their habits along with you along the way. And it's a great life, and I've been so lucky, as you said earlier, we talked about not only doing sport, but doing children need showbiz, singing, and all that sort of. I've done documentaries in America, Jersey, and so on. I really have lived the dream. And I've had the book, and I've been in a movie, as you said. So I could have no complaints. And I left when I was 75. That last commentary in 2018, I was 75 years of age. So, 75, you think, well, it's time to depart the stage before they come and put the hook out and pull me in.
Well, that's how I feel about football, Jack, you know.
You keep going, yeah.
That's how I feel. But hearing you speak like that and talk about your experience and even the little insight that you've just given in terms of commentating, that's invaluable to someone like me. So going forward, my preparation now for doing the likes of this, I thought I'd probably done enough on Sir Jack. And it gave me enough detail to have a look at you and your life, which is incredible when you see it across TV.
Yeah, no, you've done very well, Jonathan. I don't say that to blow smoke up your backside, but you have done very well. And it's been more a conversation than what did you think about this?
Well, I think that comes with me knowing you probably the guts of maybe 15 years.
Yes,
the time that I've been in the league.
It helps. I was saying there earlier about young people like yourself trying to make their way in this business, and they think, oh, I've made it. And I said, look, you haven't made it just yet. And I said, it's one thing getting the chance. The other thing is to make sure you take the chance. And I says, it's hard work. It's journalistic background. It's thinking on your feet. Thinking, saying, all of that comes with experience. But you work hard, Jonathan, and who knows?
One of the last things I want to touch on, Jack, is someone has told me that there may have been a little hiccup between yourself and Sir David Jeffrey at one stage. Surely you have to let everybody know what happened.
Oh, yeah, I know the one you're talking about. It was an Irish Cup final, and David was commentating with me. And I was up in the commentary position, got the word in my earpiece, David Jeffrey's at the gate, he hasn't got a pass and he can't get in. So I went, a few expletives left, right and centre. I had to get down and get him in. So we're coming in, and then you have to get through a barrier inside Windsor Park to get up the stairs. So I said, he says, we need tickets. And I said, here, David, you take my ticket. And he said, I can't take your ticket. How are you going to get in? I said, David, my face is my ticket. And he has told that story ad nauseum over the years. But it was true. One of the ladies says, go ahead.
That's how you know you make it, eh?
That you have a maid when you get in.
Listen, Jack, I just want to say a big thank you from myself for coming in. Obviously, this is the first podcast, and just to let you know, not to blow smoke up your own, well, you were the first person to be on this team sheet of people that we hope to talk to over the next, well, hopefully a couple of years. Hopefully this podcast can last that, which
no, I appreciate that.
But listen, I'm going to leave you on one thing. I haven't actually looked at this thing, and just to let everybody know, there is stuff on the back. I felt like we haven't actually touched on that.
I thought you were doing it ad lib. Eh?
No, I can't read that quick, you see. So there is one thing that I want to touch on, and it's a quote. And I'm going to leave you with this. And it's probably one of the best quotes that I've ever seen. I will steal it from here on out because it's incredible. So, I'm Jackie Fullerton, and my face is my passport. So from now on, I'm going to say, I'm Johnny McMurray, my face is my passport.
Yeah.
So again, listen, thank you so much. I'm going to cut it there because I feel
Jonathan,
like the experience has been
are you my son?
amazing.
A pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I look forward to.
And good luck with recovering from your knee injury.
Thank you.
And I enjoyed that little chat.
Amazing. Me too. Thank you so much.
My wife says I enjoy talking about myself.
Me too. My dad would say this. Yeah.
Thank you and good night.
It doesn't matter if you're a baby, toddler, child or adult. At H2O, we have something fun for you. Baby and toddler lessons from 3 to 36 months. Learn to swim group classes from 3 years up. Private swimming lessons for children or adults. Adult swimming lessons. Aqua aerobics for those who want some fun fitness in our private new facility. There's no better time to start than now.